Hi, I'm Tim Van Berkel, Asia Pacific Ironman Champion, and you're listening to the Physical Performance Show.
And the winner is...
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
Phelps with 10 meters left. 3 minutes too good. The crowd roaring. Freeman gets going.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Listeners, welcome to another episode of the Physical Performance Show. I'm your host, Brad Beer, and I hope you've been having a great week. I also hope you've been enjoying some of the previous guests that were featured on the Physical Performance Show, including last week's guest, none other than Mr. Steve Moneghetti. There's been a great response to Steve's episode, and why wouldn't there be? Steve's literally a living legend in the world of running, having achieved so many things, and in particular the things that he shared on the Physical Performance Show, such as his first time sharing of the athlete who he found to be the toughest to compete against, Mr. Craig Mottram, a fellow previous guest of the Physical Performance Show, have really created a bit of a buzz in the running community and also amongst you, the listeners of this program. So if you missed Steve Moneghetti's episode, jump back, take a listen to that, guys, and get ready for another great episode today. But before we go there, as always, today's show is lovingly brought to you by POGO Physio. We exist to help you perform at your physical best through our industry-first, fixed price and unlimited access to 6 and 12-week finish line programs. We want everyone who walks through the doors of POGO to walk out of the doors eventually with a high five moment where we tell you that we love you, but we don't want to see you again. That is unless it's for maintenance, treatment, performance optimization treatment, or for a new injury. But we want every acute injury to get to a finish line, to not have this session-to-session type approach where you just see how you go with it. We actually want you to have an incredible experience and get incredible results through removing all the barriers, all the friction to pain every time that you come in. One fee, unlimited treatment, you get the results and get back to your physical best. That's what we love. If you'd like more details around POGO Physio, the Finish Line program, and our soon-to-be physiotherapy POGO Partners program, then jump over to pogophysio.com.au and you'll find all the info that you need. A massive thank you this week to Mr. Brendan Murray, and Brendan rated the program 5 stars, and Brendan commented, "The lineup of champions is seriously impressive. Excellent questions that open up the conversations to raw insight. Having access to this energy is invaluable. Athletes and coaches at any level, this is a golden resource." Brendan, thank you very much for your comments and your feedback. And if you are into your triathlons and looking for a coach, Brendan's available for coaching. You can find him online, Brendan Murray. He runs the Kensho Endurance team. So check out Brendan online. As I mentioned, listeners, at the start of this episode today, if you missed last week's episode featuring Steve Moneghetti, be sure to go back. Steve shared some absolute gold around running events, his career, insights, the highs, the lows, some fantastic stuff. Steve laid down a great physical challenge for the week last week, and he shared around his 3 people that he'd like to see around the dinner table, which would have been a very, very interesting dinner table, I have to say. And also a big good luck to Charlotte Purdue, who featured the episode prior to Steve, so on episode 53. And at the time of me recording this introduction, Charlotte will be getting ready for her London Marathon outing. So all the best, Charlotte, and lots of great feedback coming through from that episode as well. Today, guys, we feature an Ironman triathlete. And this triathlete is, I believe, a great up-and-coming guy to keep your eyes on if you're into the world of Ironman Triathlon. Today's guest, Tim Van Berkel, or Berks as he's affectionately known, In 2008, at 24 years of age, Tim went on to become the Ironman Western Australia champion. This made him the second youngest Ironman champion behind Germany's Thomas Hellriegel by just 20 days. Tim then went on to win his second Ironman distance at Challenge Copenhagen in 2010, where he surpassed Thomas Hellriegel's accomplishment of having 2 Ironman distance wins inside just 3 months. Tim from there has gone on to win events worldwide and made his Hawaii Ironman debut in 2014, which Tim talks about on this episode today. And then in 2015, Tim went back to the island, and in 2016, Tim picked up the Cairns Ironman Asia Pacific Championship and then fell on some tough times in Hawaii last year, 2016. But Tim's set for what I believe will be a great 2017. He and his wife, Belinda, are expecting a child into their beautiful home, so it's going to be a big year for Tim. And you're going to really enjoy this episode from a really good Aussie bloke who's a very dedicated athlete and has a great approach. So in this episode, Tim shares around his training, the science of his training, and also the interesting story on how he first got started in the sport of triathlon. So guys, let's jump straight in today for today's guest, Tim van Berkel. Listeners, joining me on this episode of the Physical Performance Show, I have Tim van Berkel, who I know personally, and anyone in the triathlon world would also know. Tim, I've been looking forward to getting you on for quite some time, so thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Brad. Cheers, mate. I've been looking forward to it and looking forward to a chat.
So, Tim, let's throw you something a bit curly right out of the gates. What's something that scares Tim van Berkel?
Oh, what scares Tim van Berkel? Good question. Snakes.
Snakes.
Sharks. Yes, I have a little property, 4-acre farm, and we get a few snakes. And I live close to the beach as well, so there's plenty of sharks down in our way. A lot of shark attacks been happening down in Ballina area, but. You put me on the spot there, Brad. So there you go, snakes and sharks.
well, you've put yourself right in the hot spot there, Tim. As you say, you're for any overseas listeners where Tim's dwelling, you are right in the epicenter of probably the most shark attack per section of coastline in the world at the moment. Do you get any surf swims done, or is that all happening in the lake?
Well, we used to swim the pass at Byron Bay, which is a popular swimming spot. We don't do it anymore. We used to swim out the front of Lennox Surf Club. We don't do that anymore. But, they've started to put shark nets in now and stuff like that. But, people are still out there, the hardcore surfers are still out there getting out there and surfing. But, I haven't been in there for a while, that's for sure.
Because, there's been some great white attacks there at Byron Bay, and it's been that whole Ballina stretch, there's been quite a few fatalities. Yeah,
I know a guy on Ballina Cancel, and they've been catching some big ones and tagging them, and a lot of them haven't come back, which is good, but there's a lot of sharks.
Jeez, I grew up Grafton surfing sort of the north coast if I wasn't doing a triathlon, and we all used to justify staying out late and getting up early by the fact that there'd never been a shark attack. That was 30 years ago, so that doesn't fly anymore.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's just crazy how it's just all kind of happened, and they talk about currents or with the food shortages and stuff like that. I'm not too sure, but it's just crazy how all of a sudden there's just been so many attacks.
Well, mate, snakes, I've got to ask you about training snake encounters. Any close ones of recent years?
Yeah, had one brown snake when we first moved into the property, but mainly just pythons, and I've found a couple in our chook shed, but nothing too bad.
Yeah, right. So, Tim, tell listeners, you're dodging snakes, you're dodging sharks. How did this triathlon adventure of yours get started?
Yeah, I started triathlon back when I was living in Albury-Wodonga, where I grew up. I played football. I played in the Ovens and Murray League down there. I played for a team called Wodonga Raiders, and it was a junior team, and a few of us started doing a few triathlons and just to keep fit in the summertime. And I just got the bug that way and started doing a few of these. I joined the Albury-Wodonga Triathlon Club and started doing a few of their mini tries. They got a little series down there, and just got the bug and started following it. And then I saw this Hawaiian Ironman on TV, which is the Ironman World Championships. And I just thought what those guys did was just not normal, like to swim 3.8K and ride 180K and then run 42K in the worst conditions, heat, wind. I just thought it was, just crazy and, not human. And just that kind of attracted me and got into the Ironman side of it and really started following it. And then I got real serious with my tries and quit football and started training through winter and, progressed on from there. And I got a coach and I started working with Fabrizio, a coach down in Albury. And then I started getting a bit more serious with George Forster. And then I met Grant Giles and then I moved away to Port Macquarie and started racing professionally and went on to then and got a few results and now I've moved on. I've moved on with a new coach. I started working with Daniel Plews and and now I'm here and racing the world's best.
Empowering, mate. So just going back there, so you're a teenager playing AFL down in Victoria, Australia. And,
I wasn't very good. I sat on the bench a lot of the time, and I still love my Aussie rules. I still love my footy.
Who's your team? Is that of interest to you?
Oh, Essendon.
Right. So you've had a few hard years, Tim.
Yeah, we've had. I've actually become a member this year. The whole comeback story for this year, and I've jumped on board, and I'll hopefully get down to a few games before I head overseas this year.
Yeah, fantastic. So professional football wasn't going to be your calling, but you enjoyed it.
Definitely not.
And so when you first saw the Hawaii Ironman on TV and it sort of captivated you, your imagination, did at that stage, were you aware of triathlon as a legitimate sort of profession, or were you aware of any of the world's leading triathletes at that stage, or was this all just foreign to you?
No, when I saw Hawaii, I got more interested, and that's when I started following it, and then I started, following the circuit, and then, I started following other guys. I looked up to like Crowe and Luke McKenzie, another guy like that who I've always kind of looked up to. He's only a few years older than me, and we've had some good ding-dong battles on the way. So, I just got hooked like that way. And then my coach at the time didn't kind of nurture me and didn't throw me straight into the long course stuff. We just did some Olympic, and I think I did my first half when I was 19. And then I didn't do my first Ironman tour. I think I did my first Ironman at Ironman Australia in Port Macquarie when I was 23.
Yeah, right. So you were 23, your debut Ironman.
Yeah, which is still pretty young, but I tried the short course stuff, and I just wasn't. My swim wasn't up to scratch first of all, and I just didn't have the speed that some of the other guys, my fellow competitors, had, and I just seemed that I had a good endurance that I could tick along all day at a decent pace, but my speed wasn't that great, and to this day it still isn't. My speed is still my Achilles heel and something I lack, but my endurance, and I suppose I've got a bit of a diesel engine where I can just go all day.
So growing through your school years, Tim, how did you go at a school cross country, for example?
Yeah, I did well for school cross country, and even the school athletics. I did well in the long events like the 800, 1500, but I enjoyed all that. I never did a school swimming. Never did. I always wagged the school swimming because I wasn't a swimmer, but I definitely enjoyed the cross country.
So you always knew you had, and obviously you gravitated to AFL football, which is there's a lot of running involved. So you knew you had a bit of an aerobic capacity. And did you, in those early years though, know that you really had a world class athlete in you?
No, I didn't. I just like to run. I'd play football on the Saturday, and then I also did a bit of boundary umpiring. Those guys run all day as well. So that was kind of like my first job, that I got paid a bit of money to run the boundary in the Untitled Murray League and play a bit of footy as well. But I just enjoyed running, not necessarily racing. I just enjoyed running, I would just go run.
Yeah, so you're always and I mean, today your run is, from my knowledge, your strength in the triathlon, isn't it?
Yeah, yes. The run is my strength. Still, swimming is my Achilles heel, and my bike is improved a lot from when I first started. Even when I started working with Dan again, I got some good power back on the bike and started riding well. It's just trying to get, biking well, biking fast to be able to run off, a good time, a fast time, and just try to get them all going at the same time is a little bit tricky, but we're working at it.
But you mentioned you got the bug. I often joke when I'm in my line of work as a physio and people are getting ready for their first triathlon, I do often joke that triathlon should come with a disclaimer, and that's that it's seriously addictive, and if you get the bug, it's all over. How would you describe the bug? What happened to you?
Definitely, it is like a drug. Like you have massive highs and you have massive lows. Like you work so hard and you train so hard and you're so knackered at the end of the day, but you get this high that you've done a good session, or you might have ran a PB or swam a PB or done something, or you've come up to a race and you worked so hard for, and you've felt down and tired, and then you've had this awesome race, and just the massive high you get, it is kind of like a drug. Like it's very and it's just addictive too, and plus it's an awesome lifestyle as well. It's a healthy lifestyle. I get to travel the world. I've made heaps of good friends from all over the world, and now I'm lucky enough I can do it for a living. I have great sponsors. I make a decent living from it, and I wouldn't trade it in for anything else.
And so, Tim, let's go back a little bit into when you first got your professional license, which I believe was around the age of 21, and you went off to race the Hawaii Ironman Championship, the big dance in the 20 to 24 category, finishing 9th. What was that like? So you'd watched it on TV years earlier, and then all of a sudden here you were, pulling on the togs, getting ready to have a hit out. What was going through your head on the start line when you were actually over there at Hawaii for your first one?
You're thinking of the age group.
Yeah, age group.
Olympic distance. It was in Honolulu that year. I've never gone to Hawaii and to do the Ironman World Championships as an age group. I've only done it. I've done it 3 times now, and they've all been as professional. But the year you're talking about is Olympic. That was my last age group race, and it was in Honolulu. It changes every year from the venue to where they take the age group World Championships.
Yep.
That year it was in Honolulu. When I did that race in Honolulu, the Ironman was on 2 or 3 weeks later, from memory. I think it was 2 weeks. And the age group race was on Honolulu. So a group of mates of mine, we went over to the Big Island Kona and we watched it. And that was the first time I actually got to be there and watch it. And it was an amazing experience. And just watching the race, I learned so much. And it definitely made me hungry to turn pro and to get there one day.
And that one day, sorry, I did get my wires crossed there. Tim ended up being 9 years later, didn't it, in 2014 when you debuted?
Yeah. 2014 was my debut year, and it was a great debut race. I
finished 7th.
7th, yeah. And it's funny, like that race, I didn't have the best prep. Wasn't the fittest I've ever been, and I just rocked up with this attitude, like here in Hawaii, it's everything I dreamed of. I'm just going to soak it in. I'm going to enjoy it. I was here with my wife. We just had a fun week. And, I just did this race on the Saturday and just no pressure, just went and did it. And in the late stages of the marathon, I actually ran up to 4th. And coming out of the energy lab, the wheels started to fall off a bit and I faded to 7th. But still, for my first time, I was still stoked with the top 10. And then the last 2 years, I've based my whole year around this one race, and I've done everything properly. I eat healthy, I go to bed early, I trained my ring off, and I'm in the shape of my life. Both the last 2 years I've rocked up in the shape of my life, and it's just gone pear-shaped. So it's just, I think I've got to go back to my old method, I'll just rock up and, I'm going to do this little race on Saturday and race the world's best, no big deal, and see how I go.
So let's unpack that. Then I want to go back and pick up, some of your wins that led up to your Hawaii Ironman debut in 2014. But let's just hover on Hawaii for a little bit. So you rocked up 2014 with no expectation. At one point, we're running in fourth. Dropped back to seventh, 8:23 finish time. What was your run split that year, Tim? Your debut year?
Yeah, I ran 250 that year. It was hot and windy on the bike, but for the marathon, towards the end, we got a bit of cloud cover. So it was still like 30, 31 degrees, but just that bit of cloud cover out in the Queen K, it was just kind of nice. And, it was just, I just really enjoyed the day and especially like running into the energy lab in fourth place. And at that stage, I had Jan Ferdinand and Andy Potts just behind me. And to be in front of guys like that, and at the turnaround, I was only 70 seconds off third place, which was Ben Hoffman and Freddie Van Leerd was second and third. And I'm just like, holy shit, I'm having the race of my life. I'm going to run onto the podium, and then just that gradual climb out of the energy lab, and Jan and Potts passed me, and that old grand piano just fell on my back, and I grovelled home.
And your run split that year, where did that put you in the pecking order of the run splits? You would have been right up there with 250.
I think I was. I think I might have been third or fourth fastest.
So
I think Rennie got me by like 20 seconds. That's the year Rennie won, and she ran a 250. Maybe it was the other way around, but I know we'll both 250 something.
Well, she does push a few blokes along, doesn't she, Miranda?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So, mate, from there you went back the next year, 2015 and 2016, with great preparation. And what happened? It just didn't go your way on the day. You didn't get your taper right. What would you how would you analyse it?
Yeah, 2015 was a funny year. Personally, I had some stuff going on in my personal life, but which I think kind of might affect my preparation. But I didn't think I let it get to me too much. But 2015 was the year I swapped coaches. I've been working with Grant Giles for 8 years, and the squad in Lennox, we had a good squad here going in Lennox, and it all kind of fell apart, and it was kind of just me left, and I was just a bit stale. I just did Ironman Melbourne, and I just wanted to change, and I met Blues through Tim Reed, who is the current 70.3 world champion, and I kind of liked. I've been with Gilesy. I was very old school. Everything was feel. I just got the program, and the good thing about Gilesy was I was living in the same town, so he was at most sessions. So that was the good thing with Gilesy. But everything, I just kind of wanted to go a little bit scientific. Like, I've never done it before. As I said, I've always been on just go on feel, and with Dan, everything's monitored, power, heart rate, everything's uploaded, and everything's monitored, and that kind of interests me. A lot of people are doing that now, and so I started training with Dan, and with a few months with Dan, I got massive results by just monitoring everything and training to numbers, and I got second at Cebu 70.3. In the Philippines. I had a sprint finish with Tim Reed, and that day I rode the fastest time. I rode like a 2:04 and just had some real good power back on the bike, which I hadn't had in years. And then I won Sunshine Coast 70.3, beating Luke McKenzie, Terenzo. It was a great field, and that was 5 weeks out till Kona, and
so at that point, your confidence must have been pretty high, Tim.
Without sounding like an arrogant dickhead, that race felt like the easiest race, and I ran. It was the quickest half I've ever did. I ran a 1:13, and the last 5K, because obviously I had Kona in the back of my mind, I just shut it off, and I just kind of, I didn't cruise in, but I didn't push it too hard. Like, I just tempoed in home, and it felt comfortable. So the confidence was through the roof, and I was really pumped to go back to Kona, and I was positive that I was going to beat better my 7th place. I was going for a top 5, and got to Kona, everything was fine, and started the race, had a good swim, and on the bike I felt pretty comfy, and just going up Harvey, it's like a slight gradual climb up to the turnaround, but this is where all the major moves in the race happen. This is where the group goes from 25 guys down to like 10.
Yep. Even
less this year. Went down to 8 guys, but going up there, I started to feel the pinch a bit, and just my lower back and my hip, which I've told you before about, Brad. I've had a bit of niggles with it. Just got really tight, and I just couldn't push any power, and I really had to bury myself to make the groups. But I made the turn with the group, and I even kept up, because then you turn around, then it's a descent, and that's where they ride as hard as they can, and it suits the bigger guys. Me being a bit of a smaller guy, at race weight I'm around 67, 66 kilos. So, yep. And then you got these big, strong guys who are 75 plus, in their 55, big chain ring, just hard as they go, and then little Berks is trying to keep up. But
and what speeds are you talking about heading down out of there?
Yeah, depending on the wind, and then you got the crosswind as well. So some of those guys are going 80 plus k. Yeah. And I've redlined to make the turn, and then it's bang out of the corner again, and it's all about positioning going up there. And I wasn't well positioned. I was towards the back. I think I turned the turnaround in 12th place, or maybe I was a bit higher. I was around the 10th or 12th place, and it totally strung out there. The group went really small, from like 25 guys to like 10, and then. And I made it all the way to about 140k, where I could not push another pedal stroke. My back tightened up so much, and I lost a huge chunk of time. I still rode a 4:35, and I still got in at a reasonable. I think it might have been top 20, but I was in the top 10 and lost a big chunk of time. Anyway, I started running, and it was a really hot day, and I by K5 I was walking, and I look back at photos, and I just look really bloated. I don't know if it was my nutrition plan as well. I didn't do anything new or anything like that, but I've never looked so bloated in a race before. But yeah, it was very disappointing, and especially when I planned the whole year around it, and then I got home and I was just. I usually don't get too disappointed about bad races, but the one race that you've sacrifice so much for, your family sacrifice, you sacrifice for this one race, and it really kicked me in the guts, and I didn't do any training for like 3 weeks. I was boozing hard, I was having late nights, and I just I was just totally off it, and I was lucky that I've got a good team around me who gave me a good kick in the arse and got me going again.
So had you considered not going around again for it, or you weren't that far gone, you were just disappointed in the actual in the one race itself?
In that 3 weeks, I never really thought about. I just thought about that race. I didn't think about the future, but I was just angry at myself, and I just didn't know what to do. And that's when I've got a great manager and great coach that really put me back into line and just said that this is not there's next year. It's not like the Olympics are only every 4 years. This is every year. So don't beat yourself up. Let's pick yourself up and let's work towards next year.
Let's go again. So that year, 2015, you sort of pushed on to fight home. Where'd you finish that year? I mean, obviously, your ideal race was out the window.
Well, yeah, I didn't DNF. I finished the race. Yep. I finished in 10:03, which is the slowest Ironman I've ever done.
Yep.
And I think I finished in 35th place.
Yep.
Yeah, like
yourself
way down
across the line, and
just got myself there and finished.
And Tim, you mentioned in talking about preparation for that race that you were monitoring the numbers. What were the really critical numbers? You mentioned power, obviously, on the bike.
During the race.
In training, once you made the shift to a more, I guess, scientific approach. What things have you? I'm not sure if that was in the lead up to 2015 or that's just more your current state. What are the numbers that you really do like to pay a lot of attention to in your training now?
Yeah, so basically I do a lot of my Ironman efforts around the 260 watts.
Yep.
All my 70.3, I shoot for around the 280, 290, and then a lot of my threshold stuff I do over 300. But I do a lot of stuff at as hard as I can, like 350, 340, 350. Obviously I can't hold it for that long, but I do a lot of that, and I find that when I do a lot of the 350 stuff, it feels, when I go back to doing the 260, 270 stuff, it just feels a little bit more comfortable. But a lot of my Ironman pace efforts, I might do, for an example, I might do 320K as, I'll do at that 260, 270.
Yep. And you're also obviously monitoring your heart rate, cross sessions, running, etc.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, every session I use heart rate, and and I upload everything to Training Peaks, and Dan analyzes the data, and he gives me feedback, and we work like that. And I was lucky; he came out to. I did my prep for Kona in Boulder 2016, and he came out for the last 2 weeks and trained with me and was with me for the final key sessions.
And how did, obviously 2016, a big year for you, taking out the Cairns Asia Pacific Ironman Championship. That was a spectacular race for you, right?
Yeah, definitely. I was really happy with the way I started the year off at Ironman South Africa, which was the African Championships, and I had that ding-dong battle with Ben Hoffman, who he won, and I was 2 minutes behind in second, and I was really happy with that race, considering my prep wasn't it was okay, it wasn't great, but Hoff's been second in Hawaii, and to be 2 minutes behind him, I was pretty happy with that, and that qualified me for Kona, so the pressure was off. Yeah. I had my qualification done by April, and the pressure was off. I could just go into Cairns, which was the Asia Pac Champs, and not have to worry about points or qualifying for Kona. I was there just to go have a crack at the win. Yep. And I got the win, which was I haven't won an Ironman since 2008, so it was nice to win to win at Cairns, which I've had plenty of cracks at. I've had 2 seconds and a third, and to finally get it and to get an Asia Pac title too I was over the moon. What
were you, as you said, Tim? Your last win was in an Ironman was Ironman Western Australia in 2008 at 24 years of age, which was a little bit of history, making you the second youngest Ironman behind the legendary Thomas Hellriegel. So that was we want to go back on that actually, but just on the 2016 Cairns race, you've had multiple podiums, and what was going through your head as you ran down the finish chute? Can you remember?
I was just. It was like the race. The swim was tough, and I was disappointed that I lost contact with that group right at the end, because I've been working so hard on my swimming this year, and to be only a minute down from guys like Clayton Fattel and Luke McKenzie, who are awesome swimmers. I knew I had some work to do on the bike, and I felt like I was riding all right, and I caught the group, but then there was obviously Luke and Pete and Clado still out in front, and I was pretty angry at myself that I lost 14 minutes, and I started the marathon, and I'm like, right, you're still in this, and by K10 I knew that I was in a really good chance at winning this, because I took a massive chunk of time out of Clado, and I took the lead at 18K, and it was just one of those days on the marathon. I've had another one of those days, which was Cairns, Ironman Cairns 2013, the year Luke won, and I lost a big chunk of time on the bike, got a penalty, but I just got on the run and just felt amazing. It was just one of those days, and it just felt just it felt easy, but you could just run all day, and to have my family there, my uncle and auntie lived there, and just the support in Cairns was just amazing. And I can remember running, down the main street, the Esplanade, where all the pubs are, and there's all these drunken dudes yelling out, and it was so awesome. I was waving to everyone, and I just soaked it in, and I was just so pumped, and especially having my wife and my dad and all those guys there. It's just awesome.
And I mean, your finishing photo, which I popped up on Instagram this afternoon, actually before we recorded this, is one of the best. And actually, talking about the support you had, one of the gents, Scotty Page, said one of my highlights of last year was having a drink with this legend after Cairns Ironman. So obviously, you went out and celebrated as hard as you raced.
Oh yeah. I gave it a good nudge that night, that's for sure. But that photo, it kind of. I wanted to celebrate something special, and it was just the last minute that I'll just do the jump again, which I did when I won my first Ironman. I did the Greg Walsh, the Walshy jump when he won Hawaii, and I kind of look at the photo and I go, I kind of look a little bit simple in the photo with the face expressions, but it was just just a spur of the moment kind of thing, just jumping for joy.
Mate, you just swam 3.8, ridden 180 and done a marathon, so mate, you can pull whatever face you want, particularly when you're claiming the win. And
Thanks,
to give
Brad,
listeners a bit of context and perspective, for those that aren't familiar with the triathlon world, or specifically the Ironman triathlon world, when you talk about being disappointed for weeks after your 2015 Hawaii Ironman, we'll get to 2016 in a minute, but what's the sort of time in preparing? How far out are you really starting to hone your training for an Ironman? How many sessions a week? Your volume across all disciplines? Just give listeners a bit of a feel for what goes into getting ready for one of these, professional Ironman races, Tim.
Yeah, so basically, pretty much I have a good break over the Christmas December time. I don't do much, and then January I plan the year. Okay, I sort out what I'm going to do, what races, how I'm going to qualify, and what's the process I'm going to do. So I start working now towards. I had a bad Kona, so I need points. So I've got to start racing points. So I'll start the year at Geelong 70.3. And I'll do a few 70.3s. I've got a few sponsor commitment races that I have to do along the way. But my first Ironman will be, I'm going to go back to Cairns and hopefully defend the title. This year I'm doing things a little bit different. I'm going to put all my eggs in one basket and try to qualify in Cairns. Right. Where last year I had it all done by April at South Africa. So I'm only going to do the one Ironman going into Hawaii. Yep. So hopefully I get a few good 70.3 points along the way, and then Cairns. If I go top 3 with some good 70.3s, I'll be sweet. I won't qualify as high as I did in 2016. I finished 5th on the world ranking, but that doesn't matter. As long as I finish in the top 50 in the ranking, I'll be sweet to go to Kona.
No, you go. Sorry, I was going to ask about volume of training. So on average, your swim, bike, and run volume leading into an Ironman might be about what?
Yeah, so I obviously I don't jump straight into it. At the moment, around 25 hours. So I'm swimming. I've always got to keep my swimming up. I like to try to keep it up to like 20k a week. I've always got to stay on top of that. As soon as I start swimming less, my swimming goes to shit. So I've got to stay on top of my swimming. Biking at the moment, I'm not doing a lot of biking. I'm around the 400, 450 mark. Yep. As the season goes on and I start getting ready for Ironman, that will be up to the 500-600 mark.
Yep.
And then for the running, at the moment, it's still pretty low. As I said, I'm just getting back into training, getting things ticking over. I'm around the 60 to 70k mark. As I get a bit close to Ironman, it'll get up to like 80, 90k mark. I don't do a lot of. Back when I was with Gilesy, I was running 100k weeks week in. Now I was riding 600 to 700k's week out, and I was swimming big. But I find it when I do the big volume, it's just it's just a lot of garbage. I've taken a lot of that garbage out now, where it's a lot more quality, and I'm just when I was running 100K weeks, a lot of that was just running. Not a lot of it was at tempo or race pace or 1K repeats or any of that. So I've just taken a lot of that mileage out. So I'm fresher for a lot of sessions. And I also found when I did the big volumes, it hurt my swimming. I just couldn't float in the pool, and I was sinking, and my stroke would go to shit. So I find it when I ride and run less, it helps my swimming. Being a non-swimmer, I need all the help I can get with swimming, and I can just, when I'm a bit fresher in the pool, I can hold my technique a little bit better, and it helps. So with my riding, it's most of my rides I go out. It's a set session where I have there might be strength efforts, or it might be Ironman pace efforts, or it might be a recovery ride. But I just don't go do long rides anymore for the hell of it, or long rides for the hell of it. There's always a purpose for each session. It's
such a, particularly I find, Tim, in triathlon, it's such an easy trap to fall into, that the old more is better adage. And one of the best insights I've ever heard about rest, Tim, came from one of the previous guests on the podcast, Nick Willis, who at 33's picked up the bronze medal in the 1500 metres at the Rio Olympic Games. And, Nick's insight was that when he's resting, the other guys are out trying to push for more, and he's getting fresher, and that's his competitive advantage versus the hard sessions.
Look, I love that saying. And, I sit at home when I'm resting, and I see all my mates out doing these big rides and big runs, and I say to myself, shit, I should be out training. These guys, are doing all these miles. But, for an example, obviously I wasn't in great form going into Ballarat 70.3. I was training 10 hours a week.
Wow.
And I was doing bugger all. I was training during the week and on the weekends. Obviously it was a bit of a downtime for me, and I had a lot of catching up with friends and do. So I was going out. Not very professional, but you've got to have a downtime. But I was going out and having beers with my mates and just relax with my training and racing. And I rocked up to Ballarat with 10 hours training, and I was fourth, it was okay. But I had the fastest ride of the day, and
wow.
And I struggled on the swim and run, but it just shows you. I still got through the race at a competitive time.
Yep.
And I did 10 hours of training for the last 8 weeks, and after Kona I had 2 weeks of nothing, and it just shows you've got this big base, and it's still in you, and it's never going to leave you. So I think I see it all the time. Guys rock up to the start line just cooked and just overtraining. I see it all the time, and it just shows you just freshening up how much better. And I used to it used to happen to me all the time. I used to rock up to so many races cooked, and then I'd go shit in that race, and then I'd have an easy week, and then I'd go do another race, and I'd go well because I rested. So I like that saying.
The art and the science of training, isn't it? That's part of the thrill of the chase, right? It's
exactly.
Can you get that perfect race, Tim? 2016 Hawaii Ironman campaign, and then just want to backtrack to the your debut win at 24 years of age in Ironman Western Australia. How did 2016 Hawaii play out? Obviously had a blinder in Cairns, took out the win. A few months later, you're over there in Kona. What happened?
Yeah, so I was having a pretty good year up to Cairns, and then after Cairns, I went to the States, and everything was going well. I was training well, and then I went to Cebu 70.3 again, which this year it was the Asia Pac 70.3 champs, and I was feeling really good. I was excited. I was happy with the way the year's going, and the day before the race, I was out just doing my usual pre-race spin. I was riding with Crowe, Tim Reed, Sam Benton, and Leon Griffin, and we just passed a hotel, and I'm like, I'm just going to go up here a little bit more, another 5 minutes. Anyway, I'm riding beside Crowe, chatting along, and next minute I hit this big lump. It was kind of like a big lump of concrete. I didn't see it. A bit of shade was covering it. And then I face planted and crashed my bike, landed on my face, and blood was pissing out of my face. And it wasn't ideal. Anyway, so I went back to the hotel, and they took the hotel staff took me to the hospital, and I ended up getting 8 stitches in my chin and massive. Anyway, so I couldn't start the race. I was missing skin off my hands everywhere. It was the slowest crash I've ever done, but it's the worst damage I've ever done.
And it's a ripper. I mean, we'll post up the photo you put on Instagram, Tim, in the show notes. So, listeners, if you want to see Tim's mug after it, we'll pop it up. You can have a look. There's bits of flesh hanging off everywhere.
Oh, it was awful. And Sunrise Events, Alaska Milk is a sponsor of mine, and it was a race I was targeting. You know, I thought it would have been amazing to have both Asia Pac titles. So I was really disappointed that I didn't get to start, and then I went back to Boulder, and I was starting to stress that it's interrupt my Kona prep and this, and my wife came out and spent 2 weeks with me and kept me sane, and ensured me everything was going to be fine. So, I rested for 2 weeks and got it back on the mend. I couldn't swim, obviously, because of my stitches in my face, and also my wrist. I had to wear a brace on my wrist because I had it was pretty sore, and I just couldn't hold the water or anything like that. I couldn't even ride and hold the bars. But so I got better. I got back training. I had 2 weeks off. Got back training and started training for Kona. And the prep was well. I didn't feel I was fit as 2015, but Dan reassured me that the data and all the numbers was just as good. Yep. So Dan came out 2 weeks before. I had my last big solid session 10 days out. It was for memory, I think it was like 4-hour ride with some Ironman pace efforts, and then it was a run off at, I think it was 15K at our goal marathon pace. Yep. And so got through the bike, no worries. It was a pretty hot day. Started the run, and I was just labouring a little bit on the run, and my hip and my lower back just felt a little bit tight and a bit sore, and I didn't say anything. I just kept pushing through it. Got through the session, and I just pulled up really sore from it. And the next day, just my hip and my hammy, everything, I just felt a mess. And I got a lot of treatment done every day till the race, and it was just sore every day till the race. And I started the race, and it was before the day before the race, it was still sore. And anyway, I just tried to keep positive and not to think. I didn't think any negative thing. I just got treatment, just got the job done, and still got in the right frame of mind for racing. So, yep. Race started. I had the best swim I've ever had in Hawaii. Wow. I was out. I think I was like a minute down from Yarn's group. We were in that second big main group.
Must have been all the wounds stinging, mate, with the salt water.
Yeah, and then exactly. But I got out to the bike, and my hip and back was. It was. I could feel it there. It didn't stop me. I couldn't. It didn't have to. I could still go. I could still pedal. I could still ride, but I could feel it. Yeah. But I felt good. So I got through the race. I started riding. Got out into the Queen K. I was sitting in like 21st spot, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna move up and test it out. So I gave it some herbs, and I ended up at the front of the race. I was leading the Hawaiian Ironman, which I've dreamed of. I got to lead it for 15 minutes. So wow, at least there was one positive sign on the race day. But we started to climb up Harvey, and it was probably the easiest I felt ever going up there. It didn't feel too bad like it did in 2015, but obviously I could still feel the niggle, and the last 5 minutes it started to pinch, but then on the descent I got dropped straight away on the descent, and then I lost a massive chunk of time. It's the worst ride I've ever had in Hawaii. Wow. Anyway, so I got off in 40th position. I went from 6th of the turnaround to 40th, devoed. Anyway, I'm like, stuff it. I sat in T2, had a cold towel over my head, and I'm like, stuff it. I'm going to run. I'm just going to run and just finish this thing. So I started running, and I didn't feel too bad, and I'm ticking along all right, and I started picking off guys, and then with about along the Queen K and Energy Lab, I picked up heaps of guys, and then about 5K to go, I started to feel a bit funny, and the wheels started to fall off a little bit. I had a little toilet stop, and I could see David Dello, who was the first place Australian at the time, and I'm like, okay, well, let's run up to Dello. So I ran up to Dello and had a chat to Dello, and he was just in the box, and I just kept going, and I finished 19th and first Aussie, so in 8:35. But I salvaged something out of that could have been a bad day, and I wasn't stoked with that result, but I'm just glad I finished it. I don't want to go. Yeah, I don't want to go to that race and record a DNF. Yeah. I always want to finish, and I lead. There was some positives. I had a good swim. I got to lead for a little bit, and I still, I had the 8th fastest run.
Yeah.
And if I stayed in that group and ran that time that I did, I would have been 6th. So, there's little things I take positives out of it, and I didn't beat myself up as much as I did in 2015, but I was still disappointed with it. But you look at guys like Macca. How many times did he have to go to Hawaii till he nailed it? So he DNF multiple times, and then I think it was his 6th time that he got a top 10, and then went and won it the 7th time or the 8th time. So
it seems to be one of those races very much where you do have to serve your apprenticeship, learn the lessons, and then execute, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like Luke McKenzie's another one. He had slower Ironmans the first time he went there, and then started getting a couple of top 10s, and then he won 2013. He comes out and gets 2nd. So just got to do my apprenticeship, got to do my time, and hopefully in the
coming
near
years,
future, coming years, that I can.
We'll be seeing Berks on the podium doing all, crossing the line, doing the second Aussie, the Welshie version again.
Yeah. Oh, look, I dream of that day every day when I'm out training. It's.
So that's the big
dream.
That's
why I do this sport. That's the big dream. That's it's the one race I really care about, and that's why I do this sport.
So, Tim, just your debut win, that was obviously when you were 21, so... 24, my correction, Tim.
Yeah.
So very fresh in years for an Ironman, taking out a win. That day must have played out well for you in 2008, rewinding the clock a few years.
Yeah, look, it was... I could still remember like it was yesterday. It was it was a great field. The guy who I grew up idolising, Jason Shortus, was there, who was a legend of the sport, and he was racing Luke Bell, Luke McKenzie, Oscar Galandis. It was a great field, and I wasn't even going to race it, but I did the Aussie season at the end of the year, and I had some good form, and I'm like, I need to go race something, and I got in contact with Shane Smith at the time, who it was owned by IMG then, and they ran the races, and he's like, yeah, come, we'll love to have you in WA, and I got a flight over, and those guys looked after me, and started the race, and I just had one of those days where it just felt awesome, and it was a fast day on the bike. It was a pretty warm day, but it was a fast day on the bike. It was a big group of us that got off together, and I think Jimmy Johnson might have been just a little bit in front of us, but just got out in the run and took the lead straight away, and just felt awesome. And then it was about 10k to go. That back end of the marathon, I started to slow up a bit, and Jason Shortus caught me, and we're having this little ding-dong battle, and I just thought, how good's this? I'm running side by side with one of my idols of the sport, who I grew up watching, and he got about 50 meters on me, and at that year they had a guy, Tony Unicorn, who was doing the Ironman live on a mountain bike. He was calling it live as we were running, and he says to me, he goes, Berks, Shorto he's gone, mate. Get back up there. Wow. And I'm like, okay. So I got back up there, and
as in get back up to the front,
back up to Shortus on his shoulder, and he's breathing real heavily. But he always breathes heavily when he runs. But I'm like, yeah, he's done. He's gone. So I put this surge on, and he didn't retaliate, and I just kept going, and I won.
Wow,
And
mate.
I was just like, yeah, it was just, I can remember like that. It was just the helicopter was low and just a crowd. And that was the first race I've ever won. And to win an Ironman in WA at 24, I just thought oh, I've made it. I'm killing it.
And then little did you know that, as the nature of the beast is, that, fast forward to 2016 and you'd be getting that victory podium again, right? It's a cruel sport at times.
Oh, definitely. I thought I would have notched up a few more since then, but no, it's definitely getting a lot harder, and I feel that they're racing 70.3 at Olympic distance pace now, and they're racing Ironman at 70.3 pace now. It's just getting quicker and quicker. And
what do you put that down to, Tim? What do you put that shift down to?
Well, I just think you're getting these young guys now that are just bought straight into triathlon. Back when I started, guys were coming from a running or a cycling or another sport background. Now you get these guys that are just straight into triathlon, and they can swim, they can bike, and they can run, and it's just so fast. And just the pace on the bike has just gotten so much quicker as well. And you got guys that are riding these fast times that only the Uber bikers used to do, but then they're running fast running times as well. It's just crazy. And I think it's with the likes of Gomez and Jan and now Alistair Brownlee coming to long course, it's just going to get even quicker.
Yeah, wow. So watch this space. Tim, let's do a performance round, mate. You ready for a few rapid fires?
Yeah, mate, shoot.
Training session you most dislike?
Oh, anything to do with swimming. Especially yesterday I had to do 10 200s on the 230, and it tickled.
Wow, mate. So anything to do with swimming, let alone balance
anything
sharks.
To do with swimming, yeah.
Training session most loved?
My most loved one is just an easy brew shop ride with the boys.
Nice. The brew shop. Favourite brew shop, just out of interest? Which brew shop do you want to give kudos to?
Oh, yes. I like... probably the one I go to at the moment is Marius. It's in Lennox. He's a local guy, Polish guy. He looks after us boys really well. Like Marius, and anything in Byron Bay is pretty good too.
There you go. Shout out to Marius, mate. Favourite pre-race meal? What do you got? What do you do?
Favourite pre-race meal. I love my fats, so I like a lot of eggs, bacon, avocado. A lot of that stuff. I basically live on that sauerkraut and stuff like that.
Right. Bedtime? What time are you hitting the hay?
Tonight's going to be a late one, Brad. But usually 9:30, 10.
Yeah, no, sorry, mate. If you're struggling in the morning,
right,
blame me. You can tell Dan.
I'll blame you.
I've messed your data up. You mentioned earlier you typically get out of bed 6 a.m.
Yeah. I usually get out of bed 6:30. It just depends too. Sometimes if I'm meeting the boys, but tomorrow I've actually got a mate up from Sydney, Karen Roach, who's doing a bit of training with me. So we're going out at gentleman hours. So we're shooting at 7 roll.
Nice.
7 a.m. roll. Yeah.
Athlete you most admire and why, Tim?
Good question. There's a lot of guys I really admire.
It can be outside your sport.
In our sport, it's probably Tim Reed. Yep. He's a mate of mine. We spend a lot of time together, and we have a lot of fun together too. So we know when to switch it off. And I just he's the current world champion, and he's pretty down to earth. And I'll say Tim Reed for triathlon.
Yeah, great role model. What about outside of the sport of triathlon, Tim?
Outside of the sport of triathlon, I'm right into the UFC, and I'm a big Conor McGregor fan. I love Conor. I just love everything about him, and I'm going to say Conor McGregor.
Nice life after triathlon for you, hey? Toughest competitor you've ever raced, Tim? Who would that be?
Toughest competitor I've ever raced? I've had a lot of good ding-dong battles with Luke McKenzie. Tim Reed's another one. We've had 2 or 3 sprint finishes now he just seems to get all these wins, and we've had a lot of good ding dong battles. So I'll say Tim Reed and Luke McKenzie.
And Luke McKenzie. Is there a mantra that you use, Tim, when you race? What do you have? Is there some sort of go-to, self-talk that happens either on the bike or on the run or in the swim?
Basically, I just when I race, I try to stay in the now, in the moment. So I don't worry about outcomes or what I'm going to do later that night or what I'm going to do tomorrow or anything like that. I just basically worry about that very minute and where I am and just basically just planning myself and I just try to be confident too. I can be negative at times, and I have struggled a lot with self-belief too, that I shouldn't be here, I'm not good enough. So I've gotten a lot better with that, but basically I just try to tell myself the man who wins is the man who thinks he can. Yeah,
wow, powerful, mate, powerful. And Tim, best recovery tip?
Best recovery tip? One thing that it has been my downfall, but I've gotten a lot better with is my diet. My diet used to be pretty bad, and I do love a beer, but I've gotten a lot better with my diet, and I try to watch what I eat now, and it's true what they say, you are what you eat, and you got to fuel yourself with good food.
So you're bacon and eggs and avocado and a bit of beer.
Oh yeah, I love my fats. Yeah. And I go a low carb beer, so nice. I can still have my beer. Yeah,
nice, mate. A couple of fun ones to bring this into a close. What's on your bucket list? Obviously, sport. Hawaii is the big goal. Anything else?
Outside of the sport.
Yeah, and then outside of the sport, what's on your bucket list outside of the sport?
Outside of the sport. Oh, well, I've got a little. I've got a 4-acre little farm, and I've been trying to do a few farm things. I've grown my own veggie patch. I had some cows, and I've got a couple of horses. So I'm maybe a bit of a farmer down the track, but so far I'm not very good.
So develop the hobby.
Maybe
farm.
a better develop the hobby farm and be a better farmer, maybe.
You get Belinda out there as well, hey?
Yeah, don't worry, I'll get her out there. Yeah.
Tim, mate, what's one bit, if you could distill all that you've learned across your career to date, and obviously you're still learning as every athlete does day in, day out, but if you could just distill it into one bit of advice, Tim, for anyone out there looking to perform at their best, irrespective of sport, one bit of advice, what would it be?
Oh, easy. Surround yourself with good people. Get a good team behind you. I am very lucky and fortunate to have a good team behind me. I have a great coach. I have a great manager. I have an awesome wife, and my sponsors are awesome. They are so good to me, and I'm very lucky to have the support I do. Especially Giant, those guys. They bend over backwards for me, and they do so much for me. And even after a bad Kona this year, they've still stuck by me, and they believe in me. So when you have guys, all my sponsors and my coach, my manager, when you have guys like that believe in you that you can one day be the Ironman World Champion, it definitely helps my job, and it motivates myself and to work that harder, that you've got this group of people who believe in you 100%.
And do you find that, you mentioned before the struggle at times with self-belief, that having that support, obviously commercially and also just support-wise, that can sometimes fill the gap where you don't have it, others have got it for you?
Oh, definitely, for sure, definitely. Whenever I'm having troubles with, self-doubt and stuff like that, I'm only a phone call away from my coach and my manager. My manager, Sean, he does more than a job than a manager. He's one of my best mates, and I can tell him anything, and he's no bullshit with me. He tells me how it is, and same with Dan. Like, they just tell it how it is, and they wouldn't lie to me, or they wouldn't do anything wrong by me, and I can just trust in those guys. And whenever I'm down or struggling with anything, I chat to those guys, and they turn my mood around pretty quick, and I get motivated pretty quick again.
Give the right perspective. Tim, bit of a fun one. 3 people at a dinner table. living or present? Who would they? Living or past? Who would they be?
I'm going to say Conor McGregor.
Yeah, he's come up again, mate. There's a bit of a
I love Conor. Massive man crush on Conor.
Romance happening there. Connor's got one seat.
I also have a man crush on Bradley Wiggins. I love Wiggins too. He's the man.
So this is an interesting table of physiques, mate. You got yourself there at 66 kilos. You got Brad Wiggins there, and you got Conor McGregor. Who's the third seat at the table?
And I better invite a girl. So it's got to be someone pretty to look at, and let's just say one of the Victoria's Secret angels. Let's say Adriana Lima, the Brazilian one.
So, mate, you have a very mixed table. Tim, just quickly, you mentioned your sponsors. Obviously, Giant's has been in your corner for a while and a big player. Anyone else you want to just quickly thank here, mate?
Yeah. Look, Scody's another one I've signed with Scody again. This is 9 years with Scody. Wow. Bernard, he was the first guy to ever financially back me as a 23-year-old, and he took a huge risk on me, and ever since then he supported me. Newton's another one. I've been with Newton America and Newton Australia a long time now. They've been going on 4 or 5, 6 years now with them, and Giant's been another big one. Endura. Alaska Celebration's my favourite one. keeps the wife happy. Always got the wine rack stacked. Oakley, Shimano. I'm very blessed. I've got a very good team behind me.
Well, mate, you attract them, don't you? And Tim, physical challenge for the week. Every guest, issues a physical challenge for the week. Can be hard, can be easy, can be whatever you want to make it. What's Tim Berkel going to issue listeners of the show?
So like a session or something?
Yeah, it can be. It's a physical challenge. It could be 100 burpees. It could be 2 minutes of push-ups. How many can you do? Whatever. What do you want to come up with?
Let's just get up nice and early tomorrow. Let's get out for a run or a swim. Get down to your local club, your triathlon, and join your local triathlon and do a local try. Give one of the mini tries. They've got a great series happening in Queensland up your way, Brad, and have a crack at a mini triathlon.
All right, so that's Tim Van Berkel's physical challenge. And listeners, if you take on the challenge, let us know. Drop us a post over on social at Brad_beer. And Tim, where can listeners find you on social, mate? What are your handles?
I'm on Twitter at Tim Berkel. I'm on Instagram at Tim Berkel, and I also have a fan page on Facebook.
Brilliant. And listeners, we'll drop Tim's handles in our show notes over at POGO Physio, so jump over and have a look at that. You also don't forget to have a look at Tim's mug when he came off there and ate the tarmac. It's worth a look just for the gruesomeness.
When I had that crash and I didn't do the race, I did the Ironman live coverage with Cam Harper, and so they had a TV screen, and I had to look at Cam and make sure all my scratched and scarred face was to the left, so you couldn't see. I didn't scare the people and the viewers back home. I had the good side on the camera, but all the boys were calling me Harvey Denton from Two Face that weekend, so I got the nickname Harvey Denton. That's brilliant, mate. You're a consummate professional, mate, even though you're bad side and good side for the camera. Hey, that's taking a leaf out of the most professional, mate. Absolute champion. I'm a big fan, Tim, of your work, and I like more than anything the way you go about it. You're humble about it. You're loyal to your sponsors, and mate, I think the triathlon world's seen a glimpse of what you're capable of. But I, mate, firmly believe the best is ahead. Oh, thank you very much, Brad. I appreciate the kind words, mate.
So there you have it. I trust you enjoyed this episode of the Physical Performance Show. If you did enjoy this episode, be sure to let Tim know and myself know over on social media. Let us know your key takeaway, or if you take on Tim's challenge, let us know how you go with that. Any video evidence is always appreciated. If you'd like to leave a review of the show, that'd be fantastic. It really just helps this show get inside more earbuds via iTunes, and you can do that by simply clicking on ratings and review inside iTunes from your desktop computer. Reviews can't be left on tablets or mobiles, so you need to jump on your desktop and rate away. 1 star if you think this program's okay, 5 stars if you're really enjoying it, and that would be greatly appreciated. As always, a massive thank you to the people that bring this show to you. That is Daryl Misson, our expert guru audio engineer, and Susan Wilkin, our show's VA extraordinaire. So big thanks as always, Daz and Susan. Thank you guys. If you'd like to subscribe to the program, it's really simple. Simply click subscribe inside your preferred podcast app, and each week the program will be populated into your device and ready for your consumption. And I really enjoy how the feedback I get is along the lines often of I was listening while I was everything from, doing the lawns, walking the pets, walking the kids, taking a run, out for a run, on the bike, whatever it may be. It's the beauty of this audio medium, isn't it? If you'd like the show notes, a copy of the show notes, guys, jump over to pogophysio.com.au and you'll see all the relevant information there, including social media handles. And lastly, if you're into your running, or your triathlons for that matter, then be sure to pick up a copy of my Amazon running and jogging bestseller, You Can Run Pain-Free. It's available over on Audible now, or iBooks in the audio form, so you can run along and get it into you. And it's obviously also available in paperback via Amazon or pogophysio.com.au if you're inside Australia. It's a 330-page read, packed full of a 5-step method which does what the title says, helps you discover injury-free running and therefore faster running. Coming up on next week's episode of the Physical Performance Show, I caught up with a young Australian swimmer on the rise, Kia Melverton. Kia hails from the TSS swim squad here on the Gold Coast, and in 2016 made her debut onto the Australian swim team, swimming over in the World Short Course Swimming titles in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. And at this meet, Kia's first international meet with the Australian Dolphins swimming team, Kia picked up a very credible bronze medal in the 800 metre freestyle, swimming a personal best of 8:16. From there, Kia's gone on to also qualify for the 2017 World Swimming Championships to be held in Budapest, this time in an open water event, the 5 kilometre open water swim, which will be Kia's second outing at a World Championship swim meet. So you're going to really enjoy the story of a young swimmer who fell in love with the sport and her dedication to the sport, the discipline required, the dreams that she has for the future, including the 2018 Commonwealth Games to be staged here on the Gold Coast, and also an insight into the sacrifices made following that black line up and down morning and night. She's an incredible young athlete, a girl with a big future. So you're going to really enjoy that. Be sure to tune in next week to the Physical Performance Show. And until then, keep pursuing your physical best. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.